All right, picture this, Indy 500, 1,959. The biggest stage in American racing. No nonsense, no second chances. The kind of place where the air feels electric before sunrise, where every mechanic knows one tiny mistake can end a dream instantly. This is the race that built heroes, crushed legends, and made household names out of men who were willing to risk everything for 500 miles of glory. This is where engines scream past 150 miles per hour, and only the chosen few get to call themselves kings. The track was basically a cathedral for speed, 2.5 miles of unforgiving pavement that didn't care who you were, only how good your machine really was. Indy didn't hand out respect. You earned it with guts, engineering, and a whole lot of stubbornness. But one guy didn't show up to play by the rules. He showed up to flip racing on its head. Meet Smokey Yunick, the outlaw mechanic Daytona tried to warn Indy about. Smokey was the kind of guy who intimidated you without even trying. Cigarette in his mouth, sleeves rolled up, eyes scanning a car like he could see the molecules inside it. He didn't bluff. He didn't guess. He knew things other mechanics didn't even think to ask. This dude wasn't scared of bending rules. He practically bent physics for fun. And the part that really pissed people off? He was usually right. Smokey could walk up to a car, listen to it idle for 5 seconds, and diagnose.
This tolerance right here is critical. If we're off by even a millimeter, the whole assembly fails.
I've never seen metal work this clean.
This section here is absolutely perfect.
It certainly is.
Other mechanics missed after hours of searching. To Smokey, the rulebook wasn't holy. It was a checklist of stuff.
Wins.
This section here, the riveting seems slightly off spec.
I concur. Needs reinforcement.
Agreed. Mark it for review.
Nobody tried yet. And what he brought to Indy? It didn't just look wrong. It broke every expectation people had about what an Indy roadster should be. A backward-spinning Offenhauser engine. Yeah, you heard that right. Backwards. At a time when the Offie was the beating heart of IndyCar, Smokey had the nerve to say, yeah, that's cool, but what if we spin it the other way? Nobody had ever proposed something that insane, and nobody ever expected the answer to. Let's build it for real. Instead of lifting the inside tires in a turn, this thing shoved the car harder into the track. It counteracted the natural torque twist that every driver had learned to fight. Most cars felt like they were trying to peel themselves off the pavement mid-corner. Smokey's? It glued itself down. Every expert said Smokey was crazy. Some said the thing wouldn't last 50 laps. Some said it would snap the axle clean in half. Others swore it would be undrivable at high speed. Indy had seen strange ideas before, but nothing this bold. Nothing this disrespectful to tradition. But Smokey? Man, he wasn't trying to fit in. He was trying to make the establishment sweat. And when that reversed engine rolled onto the Indy grid, oh yeah, things got real. This wasn't just a race. This was a full-on physics rebellion. Before Smokey shook Indy, let's rewind, because this place, it was basically a motorsports monarchy. Back then, the Indy 500 was...
They called him Smokey. And as the smoke cleared, his fury began to rise.
Controlled by a tight circle of master builders. These were guys who lived and breathed precision. Their cars were like sculptures, every weld perfect, every line buffed to a mirror finish. They built gorgeous machines, precise, polished, predictable. And leading the charge? Jay Watson, the guy whose roadsters practically came pre-approved to win. If you rolled into Indy with a Watson car, people treated you differently. You got nods. You got respect. Because Watson was the guy. His machines weren't just fast, they were reliable, stable, and refined. Watson's formula was simple. Don't get cute, get consistent. If it wasn't proven, it wasn't on the car. Everyone followed tradition. No wild experiments, nothing risky. The culture was, do what works, do what's safe, do what's already beaten the field. Then Smokey shows up, like a guy crashing a black tie event wearing a leather jacket. He didn't grow up in elite garages. He grew up in the...
Everything looks connected. Diagnostics show green across the board. But what about this relay right here? We have a serious problem here. It won't start now. This can't be happening.
Dirt and chaos of Daytona Beach, racing. And before that, he kept B-17 bombers alive in midair during World War II. When you've improvised on planes getting shot at, a race car doesn't scare you. A blown piston isn't pressure compared to an engine fire at 20,000 feet. Smokey had nerves forged in war and a mind trained to solve problems fast. NASCAR guys told stories about him like he was some kind of garage wizard. A hidden water tank, extra fuel in the line. Tricks so smooth, inspectors didn't stand a chance. And the legend? Smokey once pulled the fuel line off a car, then drove it away. Smokey didn't cheat. He just understood the rules better than the people writing them. But Indy? Indy was personal. This was the mountain he hadn't climbed yet. In '58, his first attempt failed because of a tiny part worth a few bucks. A single transmission piece, not a dramatic explosion, not a huge engineering flaw, just a cheap part giving up at the worst possible moment. To Smokey, that wasn't a loss. That was a straight-up insult. After that 1,958 disaster, Smokey didn't go home defeated. He went home obsessed. See, Smokey wasn't the kind of guy who tried again with small tweaks. He wanted a total revolution. And that's when he asked the question nobody else had the guts to ask. What if the engine is spinning the wrong way? Every car at Indy used clockwise rotation. Everyone accepted the torque problems that came with it. Drivers had learned to compensate with steering technique and throttle control. It was tradition wrapped in physics, but Smokey saw that problem as an opportunity. Flip the rotation, flip the physics. Counter rotation meant more grip in left turns. More grip meant more speed. It was that simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Nobody had ever built a backward spinning Indy engine before. And that's exactly why Smokey said, "Yep, let's do it." His crew thought he'd lost it. The Indy purists thought he was insane. Smokey wasn't listening. He was too busy plotting a full-blown mechanical rebellion. This wasn't about beating Watson's cars. This was about rewriting the entire Indy 500 playbook. So Smokey locked himself in his Daytona garage and got to work. Because once he had the idea, nothing in. The world was gonna stop him. Smokey wasn't just building a car, he was tearing down decades of racing tradition. Indy teams kept polishing the same ideas. Smokey asked, why are we all ignoring the obvious? Clockwise rotation created torque that lifted the inside tires. Everyone knew this, but nobody questioned it. Nobody asked if it could be reversed. Smokey didn't accept that's just how it is. He hated those words. So he did the math. And the math said, if you flip the rotation, you flip the car's grip. The idea was brilliant. The execution? Absolutely brutal. You couldn't just flip a crankshaft. Every rotating component had to be mirrored, and nobody in Indy had the tools or guts to do it. So Smokey did what Smokey always did. He went straight to the top. He ordered a custom Offenhauser engine built from scratch to spin backwards. That's like asking Ferrari to build an F1 car that drives upside down. But the crazy part? Meyer and Drake actually built it. A fully mirrored Offie, cam timing reversed, oil pump reversed, ignition reversed, and when Smokey's crew fired it up, the sound freaked everyone out. The crew called it Smokey's Spinning Top, and honestly, that was the polite nickname. But underneath the jokes, everyone knew this thing was different. Scary different. Smokey grabbed a Curtis Craft 500H chassis, a proven winner, and immediately tore it apart. He ripped out the fancy independent front suspension and replaced it with a dirt track style solid axle. Traditional Indy guys were horrified. Smokey didn't care, simple meant reliable. The goal wasn't elegance. The goal was grip, stability, and brute force cornering. This wasn't a gentleman's race car. This was a street brawler wearing an Indy badge. And when Smokey dropped that backward spinning offie into the frame, the car finally had a soul. A weird, loud, confused soul, but a soul. This garage wasn't building a car. They were building a conspiracy, a machine nobody else understood, a weapon built in total secrecy. And the second it rolled toward Indy, the Sparting establishment braced for impact. This wasn't a surprise attack. This was a declaration of war. And leading the resistance, A.J. Watson, the man Smokey was threatening the most. Watson reportedly called Smokey's car a carnival ride. Little did he know, Indy crews crowded around Smokey's garage like it was a sideshow attraction. But behind the Fizit wheel, Smokey put one of the smoothest veterans on the grid, Dwayne "Pappy" Carter. Pappy had 11 Indy starts, cool head, zero drama, perfect for a car that might try to kill you. In qualifying, the reverse torque special shocked everybody, 142.795 miles per hour. Good enough for 12th on the grid with a totally alien drivetrain. But qualifying was just the appetizer. Race day, that's where things went off the rails. Track temps were brutal. Engines were overheating before the green flag even dropped. And on lap 1, LAP1, everything blew up in turn 1. Cars sliding, smoke everywhere, and Pappy Carter slicing through it like he had cheat codes. That reverse torque, it wasn't a theory anymore. It was working. While other cars got light in the turns, Smokey's car dug in like it wanted to punch the asphalt. Pappy later said, "It settled into corners like nothing I'd ever driven." And while leaders started dropping like flies, Smokey's car just kept going. 12th to 10th to 8th. The damn thing was climbing. A physics-defying, backward-spinning outlaw car hunting down Indy royalty. By the final laps, Smokey's outlaw machine had done the impossible. It survived. It competed. It outperformed dozens of proper Indy.
The firewall failed 10 minutes ago. They're inside the mainframe.
That's impossible. We checked it this morning.
The core is destabilizing. We need immediate backup in the engine room.
Look at the schematics. It's overloading. The containment field is failing.
And the kings of Indy? They weren't ready for that.
Cars. When the checkered flag dropped, Roger Ward won it in a Watson Roadster. But roaring across the line in 7th place was Smokey's backward-spinning freak of nature. 7th doesn't sound wild today, but in 1959, that was a direct slap at the establishment. Smokey had proven the concept. Reverse torque worked, period. And yet, instead of inspiring a revolution, it triggered something else. It triggered fear. Because if Smokey's idea took off, every Indy engine would need to be rebuilt from scratch. And the kings of Indy? They weren't ready for that. Publicly, the explanation sounded logical enough. Reverse torque put extra stress on the inside rear axle. Stability at the limit was unpredictable. But the truth? The numbers didn't match the fear. Plenty of Indy cars had worse stability issues, and nobody banned those. So, what really killed the reverse torque special? Politics, plain and simple. Smokey wasn't one of them. He wasn't part of the Indy elite circle. His idea didn't fail. It threatened the power structure. And in motorsport, when an outsider gets too close to rewriting history, the establishment rewrites the rules instead. The reverse torque special didn't crash, didn't blow up, didn't fail. It was quietly, intentionally erased. But here's the thing about Smokey's work. It never really disappears. Racers still whisper about it. Engineers still wonder about it. What if Smokey had kept developing the concept? What if Watson or Granatelli had gotten behind it? Could the entire IndyCar era from 59 to 65 have looked completely different? We'll never know. And that's the part that stings. But one thing's for sure. Smokey Yunick didn't just build cars. He built the questions that still keep racing fans arguing today. If you want more buried racing stories like this, hit subscribe and ring that bell. Because on Rare Car Stories, we don't just tell history, We tell the stories that almost changed it.